background?
Me?
I have. Can you hear it?
Oh, a little bit.
Dude, like, have you seen the movie? His movie,
No,
Rocket Man, I think it is.
I haven't seen it.
Man, it is so sick. It's like literally the best. Yeah, I'm not in any way like a massive Elton John fan, but this movie made me an Elton John fan. Like, fuck, he went through some stuff.
It's like it's like the Molly. Have you watched the Molly Meldrum document?
No.
So, like, even the Channel 7 did a documentary a couple of years ago, and on the same thing, I didn't know much about him, but just watching all the stuff he'd done for the music was unbelievable. Like,
Really?
Yeah, and obviously the party time back in the 80s and the 70s and 80s would have been a fun time to be around.
Oh, mate, wild, right? Absolutely,
absolutely.
Wild. Good morning, everyone. So we are going to kickstart this live in a couple of minutes, and to the 9 or 10 of you that are coming in watching live, how are you, boys? So Marky Boy, we've got Tezza, we've got all the mastermind legends. Look at this, Danny Troutman, legend, pair of aces. Hey, Nicky boy, how are you, mate? Hey, thanks, Nicky, yesterday for the help, my man. I love it. So Nicky was giving me a bit of a hand whilst at shift, because when I was in Italy recently, I got a speeding fine and I couldn't read the fine. So I'm trying to send it across to Nicky to help me out. What do you got on for today, Edo? Any plan or the weekend, mate?
No, I was going to say after this, I'm going to go for a 5K walk, and then I got to look after the kids all day. Kirsten's going to a conference in the Goldie, so
wow,
yeah,
nice. That's going to be interesting for you, mate.
Mate, you know what? It was the first time, but obviously not anymore. Like the young one, the youngest is 13 months, 14 months now, and he loves Aladdin. Like he loves the Arabian, mate. He loves the Arabian. Like, puts the songs on, and he starts dancing away. Yeah, he loves Jafar. It's crazy.
Mate, I love that.
He could be crying somewhere else, and then turns around, Aladdin's on. He's like, and it's just like
he's going psycho for it.
Yeah.
How good. All right. So what is Chris saying here? Chris is saying he was the main man who got the countdown started. Oh, you know it, brother. You know it. All right. So what I'm going to do is let you guys ask any questions that you want to ask, particularly the guys that are in the academy. Feel free to ask them live, and if they fit with our discussion, we'll answer them there, or I can answer them at the end. I think it's going to be a really, really good chat. Good morning. Who else have we got here? Ryan, horny and healthy. He knows you too well, mate. Nicky Duggan, how are you, my brother? Hope you had a good birthday there, mate, through the week or last weekend. Hope it was a beauty, bro. All right, so we're going to get this kicking. Okay, we're good. We're sorted. Let's go. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. And I've got to confess, for those of you that are watching live, I did say 6:30 Brisbane time, 7:30 Sydney time. Marky was slightly late because it's his first appearance on the podcast and he was doing a nervous poo. So we just had to get that out of the way, let everyone know that's the reason why we're slightly late. Guys, in today's episode, we're going to be talking to one of my best boys, Mr. Mark Edmondson, also known inside of the academy as the BBA Edmaster. Welcome. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yep. I just spun a load of shit there that's not actually true, but
that's right. I'll just let you go, mate. That's okay.
Usually it's the other way around. But
yeah, exactly true.
Guys, I just want to remind you before we kickstart today's episode that on the 30th of November, so we've got about, 3 weeks away, we're going to be drawing 2 people from our listenership to win $300 each. It's very, very simple. And help me out here, brothers and sisters. It's very simple. All you need to do, screenshot the latest episode or whichever episode you like, share it to your stories, tag me, or alternatively, give us a rating on the Apple review. What I'm trying to do is grow this podcast into something big. And we're at about 1,000, 1,200 downloads a month, which is pretty cool, which means a lot of people are getting some value from this. And in this episode, I want to interview Edo, who's been in our academy now for probably, 12 months, Edo?
No, about just almost 14 months.
14 months. Okay, cool. And I have interviewed Edo just on a Facebook Live before, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into this one. So if you want to ask anything, fellas, either for your own advice or for, context sake, feel free to ask the questions live and I will try to fit it into the discussion. So Edo, for those of them that don't know you, give us a bit of a backstory. Where are you from? How old are you? How many kids you got? Are you married or not? What's the scoop?
Yeah, so I'm so obviously everyone listening, I'm from the Central Coast, which is about an hour north of Sydney. I'm married with 6 kids. I now live in Toowoomba, which is near Brisbane. I work for the government, and I have a little excavator company on the side. When I say little, it's becoming big. But yeah, so I need 28 hours in the day for 24 hours I have. So that's my life at the moment.
Isn't that true for a lot of men though, right? The number one reason that we say is like, I just got no time. And I always think that you're a really good reference because we're going to talk about, the goals that you've made and achieved inside of the academy, but to have effectively a business, a wife, a job, and 6 kids, you just must be run off your feet.
Yeah, I was, and I was working away for a lot of that time, and I think before I joined the BBA, I was working away, and that was obviously detrimental to my life as well. The lifestyle that I was living. So look, during the COVID period, I'm working from home at the moment, which a lot of my mates, like it's such a shit time for everyone, but it's been the best year of my life. So from the negative has become a positive. So I work from home a lot at the moment, which gives me time for more of my business, gives me time with my family, which and the fitter I get, the better I get, the more I enjoy spending time with my family. So it's not, I don't see my family as, I wouldn't say, before I used to see my family, I used to think it was so hard, where now it's just easier and easier. So I really love being at home at the moment. It's just great.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that probably your family hasn't changed. Your lens of which you're looking at your family through has changed, right?
Absolutely. My wife's a legend. Like, she is literally, like, the shit she put up with me for so long. And you're right, I was the problem. In all the different problems in the family, I was the number one key to all that, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Dude, that's super vulnerable for you to say that. One of the things that I like, my absolute probably like top 3 hates in the world, right, is when guys sit around at a pub or a gathering and slag their missuses. That's
I'm the biggest thing. Like, I sit there, and when people used to say, my mates, like, I'd be going away for work, and they're like, you get some time away from your family. It's like, no, dude, I got married and had kids because I love my wife and kids. Like, she's my best friend. I want to be home every single night. So I get that. Like, people sit there and slag their missus out. I don't know. I think sometimes it's one, they're trying to fit in the agenda that's at the pub talk.
Yeah.
Or two, if that's how you feel, don't be married.
Yeah.
Because your wife doesn't deserve to be spoken like that.
Couldn't agree more, mate. And, seeing your missus as some sort of like lesser, or, she's the mum, she just does her shit, and then I'm the big dog, like, that's fucking garbage. But anyway, we do digress. So I want to take this on a little bit different direction. So I'm going to go and ask you some questions maybe that I haven't asked you before. And I want to go deeper because the only way that I think that you're a really big inspiration to a lot of people. I really do. And you're charismatic as well, so it helps to be able to tell your story. And so I think that after listening to this episode, if people could get a real grasp of how stuck you were, say, 14, 15 months ago, perhaps versus now, maybe the excuses will dissolve a little bit, because we already framed up that you've got 6 kids, a business and a job, and a missus. Tell us where you were 15 months ago health-wise.
So health-wise, I would have been pushing close to 200 kilos. I think when I joined the BBA, I couldn't even get on the scales because it only goes up to 183 kilos. So I think I weighed myself at the shopping centre. I was 197 kilos. And I remember going, I'm just going to put down 194 when we first started. So I could have been close to 200. And we're only talking about this today, just before going on the live here, that I used to, I had a constant cough. Like, that's how overweight I was. I had so much weight on my chest and my throat. I would constantly cough. I couldn't walk upstairs at a school because I'd get so puffed out, and I'd actually just my whole mentality was just I was in such a bad place, and I'd blame everyone else. I'd be aggro at home. Everyone else is the problem. Work, home, everything. That's mentally I thought I was like such an easygoing guy, but I think I wasn't.
And the interesting bit about like most people I would work with now, I probably don't know them as far back as you and I go, like all the way back to primary school. And what I remember is at primary school, you were an incredible sports guy. You were like the guy that, you know, were good at cricket, good at footy. You could play all sports. You could run. And so it's not as if, you know, that you've had this like really privileged upbringing, you know, like you could do stuff sports wise. You were skillful. What happened? What got to the point where you started to kind of gradually accumulate weight? What was it, you think?
I think in 2001 I went down to play, or 2000 I went down to play footy in Wagga. So I was sort of playing, you know, I was getting paid to play footy, and it was a really good time. And then in 2001 I done my knee. At that point, and that weekend I come home, my nan passed away, but I put it off actually coming home to see her. So like that, and Nan was really like Nan was the person who would go home after school on the way home and have afternoon tea and that with her, and so she was a big part of my life. And for a whole year, that really got me sort of down. And then once I done my knee in footy, it just slowly over time, like I went back and played footy locally, like in the local area, but I was a bit heavier, and then just got heavier, and then the drinking culture come in. You know, you go play footy just to drink alcohol on a Saturday night with the boys. So the footy becomes second to actually partying, and then and then over time it was just it was just a couple of kilos every 6 months, and then it got to 120 kilos. And I always say to the boys, there's a tipping point. You know, you sort of fit enough to a point, then all of a sudden you go stuff it, and then you just and then I went from 120 to 190 something like in 6 years.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So how quickly did it accumulate? Because I think like to tip it nearly 200, that's like, how tall are you?
I'm 6'4", 6'3.5".
Yeah. So as I said to Corey last week when we interviewed Corey on the pod, is because he's taller, you generally don't really notice until you hit about 120, and then it's kind of like gets over the other side. So you're saying you basically accumulated somewhere between 70 and 80 kilograms in the course of 6 years. Yeah, 6
to 8 years, I reckon. When Kirsten and I sort of got together, I would have been like 115 kilos. So over 10 years, I got up to 85 kilos basically.
Dude, I haven't for anyone listening at home, I haven't prepped Mark with any questions. So feel free if you want to kind of pass on a question if I ask you. So
I'll ask anything, you know that.
How did that did that impact your relationship at all? Like I can imagine if I'm just completely honest, excuse me, sorry, I'm just completely honest. Like if I married someone that 6 years later was like 50, 60 kilograms heavier, that would be quite shocking to me. And I'm not criticizing, and I'm just saying factually, I'm almost with a different person.
Yeah.
How was that? Did it impact your relationship at all?
Yeah, I've spoken a little bit about it to the guys in the BBA, and I think I've spoken about it to Skip before. About 3 years ago, before we moved up to Brisbane, for 6 months there, we like my wife struggled with my weight, like it was impacting our relationship, our sex life, like a whole range of things. Like I think it got to the point where I reckon if I didn't do this, like we wouldn't be together. Like that's how bad it was getting for her. And and my wife's she'll talk to me about it. Like it was something that was just bubbling up inside of her. So for a good 2-3 years there, like it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And I didn't help either. I started going away a bit. Like I started going back drinking with the mates at the pub and that, and just pushing it off, as men do, push it off. So we moved up here, where I got away from the bubble of being with mates and that, and I stood back and went, I need to do something. Like if I want my marriage to last, I need to do something. You know, and my wife's already on that physical. My wife's already on that. Like she knows about nutrition. She's already started. Like she would teach me stuff, but I wouldn't listen to her. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't listen to her, and I do now. But it's like it's. I still look. To be honest, it's it's hard. Like it's hard thinking about it. Like what she had to put up with. It really is.
Dude, can you tell me, like, I appreciate the vulnerability, absolutely, dude. And can you tell me, like, at that point of where you were carrying a fair bit of weight, what were the day-to-day frustrations that you felt? Like things just like day to day, what pissed you off about where you were?
Getting out of bed. I'd almost have to like, it was an effort just to get out of bed. Like, it was so hard getting up. It was like just going to shopping centers. I could like, you know, if I wanted to go and buy like a t-shirt or something, I'd have to go and spend $40 at the big men's section. I couldn't just go and buy a $5 t-shirt to go and do something. So just shopping in different places. Like some of the benches you go to restaurants, you know, they're seated benches and you couldn't fit into, like just things like that. Like, just, it's embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. But I used to blame.
Tell us about the seatbelt extension, because I think that really just does.
That was. So I used to. So as I said before, so once I moved to Queensland, New South Wales government kept me on. I was doing such a good job. They're like, we'll keep you on. We'll pay for all your flights down and car and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I used to get a seatbelt extension because some of the planes, the A320s, I could sit on it with Jetstar, but Qantas and Virgin I couldn't. And Qantas and Virgin were better flights than Jetstar. But I used to pick and choose which plane I could get on, so I wouldn't have to get a seatbelt extension. But I just couldn't get the planes all the time. And then I remember the first time COVID hit when I started the BBA. So 3 months, went back on a plane, and I just said to the lady as I walked in the door, I said, I don't need a seatbelt extension. And she goes, okay. And I sat down, and I think I took a photo and put in, like, I actually had that much of the actual seat, like, on, and I could actually put the tray down. Like,
dude.
I've been able to put the tray down on a plane for 7 years.
Fuck. And now it's about, and these are these are the things, like, guys and girls think of, you know, when they set on the scales and this is a number, but it's the practical stuff and the impact of that practical stuff. So the cascade almost looks like this. Okay, you lose some weight, great. Don't need the seatbelt extension. Tray tables down. Feel more confident sitting in the seats. Smiles on face. People respond to you better because you're smiling, and then you go out and prosecute your mission in the world. And this is where it's like the entrance point is, you know, health and fitness, but the exit point is more abundance in all areas of your life, right?
Absolutely. Like that scale weight we talk about, like I could get on the scale now and be and do nothing this week, do bare minimum, eat right, and get on the scale and lose half a kilo. Or the next week I could go to the gym 4 days of the week, eat healthy, get on the scale, and it hasn't moved, but I'm more healthier and more happier the week that I've done a whole lot of stuff, and the scale might not have moved in the week that you don't do anything. So the scale weight, and me being a big guy, I can fluctuate 2 or 3 kilos in a week, like if I'm water, gym sessions. So yeah, definitely. If I think the best thing being of a fitter mind is you actually stick to some of the tasks that you set. You stick to most of the tasks you set. Where before, I didn't set, like, come a Monday, I know what I'm doing for the week now. Where 2 years ago, come Monday, I'd be like, oh, got to go back to work again. So there's a whole range of things. 100%.
So let's go back to when you start or before you started.
Yep.
Like, honestly, I'm trying to put myself in the position of someone that feels kind of stuck. What were the sort of thoughts that you had going in as to, like, what I'm asking for is about, you know, the kind of justifications or excuses or whatever you want to call them. Like, what kept you stuck? What mindset kept you stuck?
To be honest, I actually didn't think I was eating that bad. I actually went, no, but I'm eating like salads I'm having vegetables for dinner. What kept me stuck was, again, is the fact of going in, doing 2 or 3 weeks, because I've done so many diets in the past, 2 or 3 weeks in, that's the point where you either keep going or you stop. And that's what happened in the past. I'd stop. So I'd sit there and go, okay, I've just told everyone that I'm going to go into the BBA. And I'm like, no, hang on a second. Don't tell anyone, because you might fail. You will fail. Like, I literally walked into before I went to the BBA, realized that I was just going to fail. Like, I did everything else. It was going to be 2 or 3 weeks, and then that's it.
So what kept you stuck was the fear of failure?
Absolutely.
And was that the main reason? Like, if you go back to where you were, is that the main reason? Or was it like practical things around, like, I would do it, I can do it, but I just don't have time? Or I could do it, but I actually don't care enough about it where I feel this imminent threat to my health? Or, like, was there anything other than, the fear of failure? Or was it literally just the fear of failure?
No, it wasn't just a fear of failure. It was trying to explain it really good. You know when when I'd walk into schools, right? I'd walk into a school and I'd hear the fat comment from a little 6 or 7 year old kid, right? And I just that sort of stuff would get to me, and that sort of stuff that would get to me, and I think about it, I'm like, that kid tells the truth. Like he's 6 or 7 years of age and he's telling the truth. I think what's like death was scaring me. Like I believed that I was going to die at 50 years of age. I'd read some books about it. I know I was getting the one of the coughs. I couldn't breathe properly. I'd struggle. I knew a heart attack was coming, but I was so focused on that I just wouldn't do anything about it. Does that make sense? I could just I know a lot of stuff from nutrition wise from playing football, and I used to sit there and go, "No, I know it all. I can do it. I know all this." But I think I didn't have that someone tap me on the shoulder like a doctor saying, "Hey, Edo, you need to go and lose weight or you're going to die." Like I didn't have that. None of my mates were honest with me. None of my mates would say, "Edo, you need to stop doing this. Hey, mate, maybe put the fork down." All my mates would sit there and just, I'd be going out partying with them. Like I'd go out drinking with them. But I just wish.
Well, that's your nickname, right? Your nickname is Party.
Yeah, but it's not from that.
Right.
But yeah, I think sometimes I just wish one of my mates would actually say, "Hey, you need to do this." But then I also think back and go, if one of my mates told me that, would I have listened, or would I have just said, "You don't know shit, mate, move along"? So
yeah, so that's an interesting question, and I'd like to anyone that's watching live, I'd be really interested in what you guys think. So let me know in the comments if you are watching live. I would want to know. So if I was at the point where I did need help, but maybe I didn't consciously agree or was really deeply aware of it, what do you think is the best way for a coach to go about that? Do you think, or people in your life, would you have preferred someone to say to you, "Listen, dude, like take the hard line"? I guess it's different between different people, but take the hard line and say, because what I know is this: the number 2 causes of mortality for Western men and women are to do with lifestyle conditions. Right? They're going to be heart disease, lifestyle condition, with some genetic involvement, and diabetes. Diabetes is this, for anyone that doesn't actually know it, it is a condition which is pretty much preventable. Type 2 diabetes we're talking about. And what happens is over time, the hormone that controls your blood sugar level effectively, just due to the carrying of extra weight, becomes dysfunctional. Okay? Eventually, the pancreas ends up burning out and it gets worse and worse and worse. Now, what happens in diabetes is, particularly in the very small areas of the ankles, the eyes, the kidneys, the wrists, where the blood struggles to get through the blood vessel because the body is almost trying to pump honey around. Right. And so what happens is you get blockages, and you see these, you see the gentlemen that are in the kind of wheelchairs, down the main street, and they've got the really swollen red ankles.
Yeah.
What that is diabetes, because on the other side of the ankle where it's not getting the oxygen, it's getting starved of oxygen and nutrients, and it's literally dying flesh on the other side. So this condition that's completely sorry if that's feels a bit grotesque, everyone, but this is a largely preventable condition.
And isn't it reversible as well?
If you get it early enough. So they have a stage, as you know, called pre-diabetes, or sometimes interchanged with insulin resistance. But it basically, yes, to a point it's reversible. But at a certain point, once your leg's chopped off, it's chopped off, right?
Yeah.
Mark, I was when I was first qualified as a dietitian, I was in a hospital in Newcastle, a diabetes ward that I worked at for a period of time. And we had this gentleman who was probably 60 years old, carrying a lot of weight. He went into hospital for one condition. And what had actually happened is he had diabetes already. And he was laying on his back, and he got what's called bed sores, which was where effectively the bones push through because the surface of the skin is so bad. When the doctors rolled him over, and he was an otherwise very intelligent, healthy businessman, right? When the doctor rolled him over, they had to do the wound changes. The nurse said to me, Jace, I want you to see something. And of course, I was a new dietitian. She goes, watch this. And she got her fist and stuck her entire fist down to the wrist in his butt cheek. I don't mean in his hole. I mean in his butt cheek, right? In the gaping wound that had been caused by the bed sore, which had been largely caused by his weight and lack of blood flow. Like, if people understood things that are preventable, it's just like, man. And I wonder sometimes, is it that we just naive? Is it that we put our head in the sand with this stuff and we just literally don't know? Or is it what I suspect, a bit of a combination of both, where we're just stuck and we don't know how to ask for help because we think that we'll be judged, we'll fail, we can't do it. And in the wrong infrastructure, that might be the case.
Well, I went to a GP about 6 months before the BBA, and I had some testing that done, and the doctor, like, he was a bit surprised. He's like, your tests are reasonably good, but I don't think they're going to be like that in a year's time. Like, you need to. And when I asked about the pre-diabetes and that sort of stuff, he didn't actually know, like, if you're an early onset diabetes, what you can actually do to prevent it. Like, I had to get all the information from my wife. Like, she told me things about what to do and that sort of stuff. And obviously she gave me some hints to, she was like, oh, Jace is doing a live, you should watch this. And, so she sort of pushed into it. But I just, but yeah, like, I honestly believe that if I was sitting here now, I'd be 220 kilos. I wouldn't be married. I'd be close to death. I'd definitely have diabetes and just eating more. The heavier you get, the bigger you get, the more food you eat. So, you might start eating unhealthy, like going to Macca's and having a Big Mac meal. But then it becomes a Big Mac meal, 2 cheeseburgers, a thick shake, soft serve cone. So,
and there's a number of reasons for that, actually. And the number of reasons include, one, your ability to regulate your hormones that control your appetite. They kind of go out of whack. You've got a lot of the times insulin resistance. So your ability to regulate that control of sugar in your blood is always out of whack. You're a bigger human. So actually, even though you're a bigger human, you require more calories because of the fact that it's almost like you're carrying around a caravan on your back. So you burn more petrol. And then there's I think what is the biggest one, and anyone who's been in that position would certainly, identify with this, is that eating provides an emotional quench. It's probably the universal tool for stress management, emotional management, and combined with alcohol is what we do, generally speaking. Whether we're skinny or larger, that's what we do, right?
100%, absolutely. And I haven't eaten Macca's so the day before I joined the BBA, or 2 days before, that was my last meal at Macca's. So I haven't had McDonald's in 14 months. I get coffee from there. We've talked about that. So, like, I wrote some things down yesterday when you asked me about coming on this podcast of some things that I've changed, like just little things. Like I never drank coffee until I had kids. I never ever drank coffee, but like I don't drink full cream milk anymore. Now, I used to go through, to be honest, 2 or 3 liters of milk a day. Milk was I swear to God, milk was my water, mate. Like, I would literally go and grab a 2-liter milk and sit there and drink a 2-liter milk. Like, that was one of the biggest things. Where now I drink almond milk. I actually had to have a coffee about a month ago with full cream milk, like in the coffee, and it made me sick. Like, it literally.
So one thing you've done is so you're mindful of changing one of the rules that we have inside the academy is don't drink your calories unless it's alcohol, which we give you a little bit of a pass on.
But you can also get the low calorie beers as well. So.
100%. Yep, true. Yeah. So we reduce calories. So let's talk about some of the things that you started to do as you got going.
Okay. So obviously, so in the BBA we do anyone that starts is 1,800 calories a day with 200 grams of protein. Which is, and obviously year 3, I try to hit 3 liters of water a day. It's amazing actually when you change your drinking from Coke and milk to have water. It's amazing how quick you can actually drink water. Like some days, if you're out working outside now, you can hit 5 or 6 liters of water. But just things like that, and then just changing little things. Like my fish and chips now is salmon and sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
You know, so I still call it a takeaway meal, but it's our takeaway meal at home, you know, or instead of having a full pizza, which is 2,000 calories, go and make yourself a full meal at home, pizza for 800 calories. Like there's different ways, just changing little things and just knowing. I think the biggest thing that I've got out of the BBA was don't shop inside the shopping centre, shop around the outside of the shopping centre.
Yeah,
and
the old perimeter shop.
Yeah, and Kirsten will say to me, she goes, "Oh, make sure you stick." So we talk about the 80-20 rule. So in the BBA, we have an 80-20 rule. We always say she's like 80% outside, 20% inside for the kids. You know, just little things like that. So, you know,
dude, there's some really practical things, because I think a lot of guys and girls, what they would think is that the journey is going to involve, especially now, right? Especially now, I'm not going to start now because it's Christmas, and there's a couple of fundamental kind of challenges to that mindset that I would suggest. Number one, not starting now basically means that you think that you're going to have to give up everything good in your life in order to be sustainable. And the truth is, no one's going to do stuff that is not sustainable until Christmas, let alone for the next 20 years. So the idea in the model is to give you something sustainable. So some things that you talked about then is some substitutions, right? You can literally quarter the calorie of a pizza and still have the pizza just by making some changes. You can still have your lattes 2 a day if you want to. We're just going to make some changes to it. There's just little tweaks and changes, particularly around nutrition. The second thing, and I did a post on this yesterday, is I think a lot of people worry about starting in November and December on a transformation. The reason is because there's a lot of social activity going on here. But then what happens is they kind of gradually cruise down into Christmas and come to a standstill and eat all the food and eat all the grog and all that type of stuff. And then they wake up on the 10th of January and think, all right, New Year's resolution. And you've put on 2 to 3, 4 kilos over the Christmas period. And in addition to that, you've come to a grinding halt at the busiest time of the year when you're getting back to work and getting back off holidays, and you're depressed about the fact that you don't want to leave your holidays and all that. It's impossible to get started. And this is why there is no perfect time to start. Yep. And if you are looking to start a transformation, it should be something that you take into the new year with momentum. Dude, I want to ask you, what's been the kind of biggest struggle for you along your journey? Actually, no, before I ask that question, where are you results-wise compared to when you started?
I'm about 44 and a half kilos down. Okay. So that's in 14 months. Like if you said to me, hey, Edo, I'm going to give you 45 kilos down in 14 months, you jump at the chance, you know. I didn't even think I could get to this point. Honestly, I literally, even when I first started, I didn't know how I was going to get there. Like everything was in front of me. You laid everything out. You talked about it, but it was still a jumble. It was a jigsaw to put together. That's how I felt in my head. But each week it just got better and better. Like it's I've still got 40 kilos. I reckon about 35 kilos. Like my goal is 120 kilos. So about 30 kilos left to go. But and then when I get to the 120, like I've got some ideas on how to stay there and that sort of stuff. So it's not my end goal. My end goal is when I die. That's my end goal. But my meditation, some of the results right now so that's where I'm about 45 kilos down, and I'm living a good life. That's the difference. I'm at health. I'm a happy, healthy man. Still working on myself every day. I keep working on myself. So that's
Dude, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
And this is a controversial question because, and it would always attract a lot of criticism, but I'm interested in your opinion.
Yep.
Do you think you can be 150 kilograms and healthy?
No, but I'm healthier than what I was a year ago. I've got to think I'm happy.
Great answer.
I've got to think. If I don't think I'm healthy, then I'm just going to go back in a negative mindset. So every day I live my life. I'm working towards a goal. It's like your savings in a bank account. You want to get something so you can buy something. It's the same as this. If I want to go and have a beer on a Saturday, I've got 4 days of deposits before I can have a beer on a Saturday.
Are you still having a beer now?
Not really. Like not heaps. Like not like I used to. Like I'll have a cup of beer.
But I mean, just generally, you enjoy a beer.
Yeah. If I want to go like today, I'll probably have 2 beers watching a few races this afternoon.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And then And like little things like that, like I'll fast. Like I'll have coffee until lunchtime, so I'll fast, have a smaller meal for lunch, and then have a few beers. So it's about give and take. But can I go back on that one about the people who want to start now till Christmas? And I'll give you my 2 takes on that. I've said this to a couple of mates who are close to join the BBA, and they're like, the same thing. I'll just start in the new year. And I've said to them, this is my take on it. Why don't you join now, come to Christmas, and then at Christmas Day, have a day off. Don't track, don't do anything, just have a day off. And then between Christmas and New Year, track and do what you need to do. And then have a week, even have a week off. And I'm like, just pick your days that you want to have off and not track and not do anything. If you have 4 days out of 2 months, well, then there's another 58 days or 57 days you're going to win and you're better off for it. That's how I try and say to them, like, pick and choose your days. Like, you don't have to be full on. It's like a footy player. You're not going to have 12 months of just going hard. You've got to have some downtime. You've got to have an off season. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing. You can't just be on all the time. If you're on all the time, you're going to burn out. You are going to burn out. I've seen a lot of mates over the past in life go so hard for 4 or 6 weeks and they've gone too hard. So that's the part I sit there and go, like, moderation.
Well, it's not sustainable, and I think this is the position a lot of people get to, is they're on the horse and on the horse, off the horse and on the horse, on the horse and off the horse. Actually, the thing you need to do is stop being so intense about your approach and just dial it down a little bit. Like, chill the fuck out, dude. Let's get 70% good or 80% good, and let's allow for a few falls off the horse along the way. When you go through, and I always bring this point up, a transformation, you break down that word, transform. That means means change, form, change your form, right? Do you think that you will have entirely changed your form over like 6 months to a year? And let's go through, there's a number of gentlemen watching this episode live, and just to point it out, guys like Adzi, or Nico Gentile, guys that have kind of been on the horse and off the horse for periods of time. And we get surprised when we go through these periods of on the horse, off the horse. It's like, fuck, I'm a failure, man. Like, what? How did that happen? Dude, because you're trying to change your form. And when by changing your form, what this actually means is you're trying to rewire your nervous system inside your brain to think like a different man or woman. That's not something that you can just like flex your mind. Watch this, I'm going to change my form. There you go, it's done. 6 months later. It doesn't work like that. It takes time, it takes persistence, and it takes falling off and feeling shit about yourself, but having the courage and the guts to get back up again, dust the knees off and go again. So let's talk about that for you, man. Let's talk about, like, as we kind of wind this up, what's been the biggest struggle or continues to be the biggest struggle for you moving forward?
My biggest struggle would be just sometimes, obviously with work and the other side business and that, just if I pick a time sometimes to go and do something, then something else always comes up. That's probably my biggest thing, is that I can't just sit a time to go to the gym or go somewhere. Like, I've got to be flexible and that sort of stuff. And I've got to take my ego out of it. I see guys get up at, my accountability partner gets up at 3 a.m. and goes to the gym. It's just, I'm just not that person. I can't get up at 3 o'clock to go in the morning, because then I'm just so tired for the rest of the day. I've got so much stuff to do. So just that little thing is, like, planning the week, I have to make sure that I can't plan it up to 100%. I've got to have some leeway in there, and I think sometimes I struggle with that. Is, I want to stick to a routine, but sometimes I've just got to go with the flow of that sort of stuff. That's my biggest.
That's excellent. And what I would suggest, mate, if I can, just some simple coaching, is that I would, if you haven't already, schedule your workouts into Google Calendar. Okay, and guess what? If you have to move them, you have to move them. But just on a Sunday particularly, just thinking to yourself, okay, well, at this stage, knowing that things are going to come up, what can I mentally, and then transcribe into Google Calendar, commit to just now to at least. And what the research has shown is when you make the written commitment versus just the mental intention, when you make the step of setting the event in your calendar, the chances of you following through on that are a lot greater. And you're right. I know what it's like. It's like one of the kids is sick. I know what it's like for me. Babysitter doesn't turn up, or a client needs to jump on the phone, and it cascades back your whole day.
Yep.
But that's okay, because if you can't make that day, then you just make up for it the next day. You're not trying to get anywhere by next week or the week after or the week after. You got your whole life to kind of improve this process of building habits. It doesn't need to be done by the end of the week.
I think it's an honesty as well. Like, I think about 8 months ago, got the diary and I'd blank out a day, so I wasn't, doing that sort of stuff. But I say to myself now, and I used to beat myself up over it. If I missed a day in the gym, I always sit there and go, okay, it's 4 o'clock. Okay, I can't get to the gym today. What have I eaten today? What am I going to have for dinner? You know what? We'll start again tomorrow.
Yep.
Not this. I don't agree with people. It's Wednesday and everyone's like, oh, I'll start again on Monday. It's like, dude, there's still 4 more days in the week. You can still win out of 4 out of 7. And
it's kind of the same mentality as saying, I'll start next year. Like, who cares if it's humans have created this like 24 hours, 7 days a week. A month looks like 28 days. A year looks like 365 days. Like, these are just creations of man-made mind. What do you mean you haven't been to the gym by Wednesday and you might as well write the week off? No one's counting how many gym sessions you did this week. All it is it's a tick in the box for Wednesday or not, and then move on to the next day. Sometimes I'll get 5 gym sessions in a week. And then the next week, it's literally, I won't get there till Wednesday. And then I'll get up Thursday and I'll have clearance, and I'll get there maybe Thursday, and then a half-baked session on Friday. And then it's family for the weekend, and I've only got 1.5 sessions in. Like, It's not about how many you fit into a week. It's about putting a 1 in the box as often as possible.
Yep.
Dude.
I think there's something just... Sorry.
Go, you go.
I was just saying, even, and what I meant, my mentality now about the gym is like, we've known in the past some guys in the BBA who didn't start the gym because of lockdown or whatever. If you eat right, you'll still lose. You still lose weight, and that's the thing I keep saying to myself. So that's.
It's a really good point, mate. And I've dropped a few hints over the course of the last couple of days that we're going to be working on some cool stuff with nutrition and just making the whole thing a little bit easier and more direct.
Yep.
Dude, last couple of questions. Outside of fitness, obviously losing a bit of weight, what have you noticed any tangible benefits that's had in your life outside of the physical?
Yes. So I ended up buying the excavator with my father-in-law 2 months after I started the BBA. Now, I know for a fact I would not have even considered thinking buying that. One, I wouldn't have had the mentality to do it. But 8 weeks in, my father-in-law come with me the idea and started working on myself. What can we do for the family? How can we get more finances? If it wasn't for the BBA, like, I wouldn't have bought the excavator business. There's no way. I just wouldn't have even thought about it. I wasn't in the mindset to even do it. I wasn't clear enough headspace to do it. I thought my day job was just so hard. So that in itself, I'll always take the BBA.
Can you explain? Sorry to cut up. There's a little bit of a lag. Can you explain the link? Like, what the hell does something to do with a business? What the hell does that have to do with you losing weight? Like, what's the connection at all?
Well, how we talk about being stuck, right? So I'm just thinking of how it's in my head. I was in such a trance of what I was doing day in, day out. And I thought if you think of a jar that was full, I used to think my jar was full of water. And then what I realized is my head emptied some lot of things out and went, hang on a second, I can do better at life. Hang on, there's more options out there, not just fitness wise. It's like anything. When you go into I've said this to a few of my mates, when you go and do an exam, right, and you do a lot of training for it, if you get no sleep the day before and you rock up to an exam, you can't do any of it. But if you've ate right and had 10 hours sleep and you rock up there, you're so fresh, mate, the exam will go like that. So it's about making your mind fresh. So every week that I was in the BBA, I just got better and better of other things. My work, which I used to take 50 hours to do, I did it in 25. So things would just come easier.
Because your physical capacity has been increased, but more importantly, it's fed back into your self-belief. And
because instead of I can't, I can. That's it. Instead of I can't do this, I can do that. Okay, I might not be able to go 100%, but I can definitely do that at 75% right now. Like in the gym, like I bench press the bar to start with, but that's still better than Mark Edmondson sitting at home eating a packet of chips and a can of Coke. So it's an ego thing, but yeah, definitely it's.
And on that note, where are you up to? Where are you up to now with your bench press?
Oh, about 65 kilos.
Wow! So that's like from 20 kilo bar to 65 kilos. That's solid, mate.
100%. I don't have a spotter, so I reckon I could punch out 80 or 85 if I had a spotter. But, I don't want to sit there and try and do it
and crush yourself.
I've seen it all the time. I see in the gym like there's like some young kids going there like bench pressing 40, and it's like help,
dude. So I'm going to ask a different question to what I normally ask, which is around, what would you say to anyone listening who's kind of feeling stuck? Instead, I would say like, what kind of like advice or encouragement, or what words or what kind of statement would you make to Mark, 15 months ago that you think, he might have wanted to hear? Like, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, fuck, like this guy was 200 kilograms and he did, and he made excuses to the point of which he accumulated this weight. If he can have a quiet word to himself, like I need to have a quiet word to myself. So what would you say?
Geez, that's tough, isn't it? That's a hard one.
Because you want to have a level of compassion, so it's encouraging to that person, but you also want yourself to know that you got to do something, man, and you can do it.
And coaching footy, I know there's people that I've got to say, people like, come mate, you can do this, you've done it before. Or the other hand, I'm that person where you need to say, hey, Edo, you're a lazy so-and-so, you need to get up and do this.
Yeah.
I think what I would say to myself is, you've got a beautiful wife, you've got 6 beautiful children. I think to actually get me to do it, I'd actually say, do you want someone else to raise your kids? Do you want someone else to be married to your wife? Because that really got me. That's until I thought about that, I actually thought, hey, if I don't do something about it, someone else is going to come and step in and take in my position. And that got me going. Like that really, like that, even now, like it really hits home to me. That's what I'd say to myself. Like, you need to do this, not just for yourself, but for those other 7 people in my family. Well, that's the hardest. That's what got me. That's what I'd say to myself. You've created this life. You need to step in and fucking start following through with what you promised.
Let's get the dramatic pause. Just been, dude, that's like fucking heavy. I can imagine that's pretty motivating for most men. Let's leave it there, dude. I think this is a good conversation, and you're a really charismatic, giving, honest, vulnerable guy. I remember one of the first videos you did, you were just starting to get a little bit liberated, and you popped that video up on the group wall, and man, that's just the best video I have ever seen. You're so emotional, so vulnerable about what it meant to you. And I just, this whole mission is about trying to get men to just park their ego a little bit, move towards the fear and kind of get unstuck, whether it's inside of the academy or outside. So, dude, I want to honor you, mate, as being a friend, firstly, and for coming on the podcast and being super vulnerable, and also for just giving as much as that you give, even with your cup quite full. So Chris is, I'm just going to find Chris is asking a question. Does he still take the spare tire wherever he goes? I've got a feeling this is an inside joke, might not be PG.
No, I did. Even Ryan talks about it. So, I went down to New South Wales and worked, and Chris, by the way, made my lunch for a couple of days for me. How good was that? So, and I got to like 11:30 and I hadn't done a gym session, so I pulled the spare tire out of the back of the car and started doing the the back things. And I did a live video. Said I can't get the gym, but here I'm doing the spare tire. So,
oh mate, that's
can I just say one thing to anyone who's listening?
Sure.
Anyone who's on the fence about thinking about joining the BBA, we're a men of 200 plus people who will sit there, encourage you, will motivate you, will pick you up when you're down. If you, and you know, I've made mates along the way as well. Like I didn't come in the group looking for mates, but I've made mates for life out of this group. And I just say to anyone who's thinking about joining this group, it's not just about fitness. It's about people who have your back. So if you're thinking about joining it, you know, contact Jace and Skip and just get involved, because, you know, there's a group of men in here that men don't use the word love too often, but in this group, like, there's so much love for other people in this group, and it's just fantastic.
I don't think men don't use the word love because they don't want to use the word love. I think it's because they probably didn't grow up being loved or didn't feel love, so it feels awkward to them. It's kind of like when I cuddle my dad. He's an old Maltese guy, and I cuddle him, and then when our dicks touch, in shorts, of course, he doesn't like it, so he kind of turns sideways. He doesn't know what to do. But mate, we don't need any dick touching. We just need some love, and yeah, the boys will bring it in. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, Mark. You're a legend.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, this has been the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to if you're sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs, and if you would like to do a side of the road tire session, let me know. Send me an inbox and we'll get you started. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Marky, we might we'll leave the recording there, but if you want to, we can just have a fluff discussion if you want to now. So a couple of guys that are in the academy. So Jezza was here for on his weekend watching this for 50 minutes, mate. You're an inspiration. That's incredible. It must feel great. Dan Troutman says, what a guy. Chris says, we had a challenge to go to the gym 5 days straight. He missed the hours of the gym, so he made up his own special of the severe tire. So good. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I wasn't sure if you'd still be on, but I remember Mark was the guest. Well, it's going to be watch the replay, Mikey, or we can put it on. It'll be on the Spotify and Apple podcasts soon enough. Great job, Tezza says. Of course he will. Damn. Nico Gentile. Nico's another one who's Nico's taken probably 15, 16 weeks to really get started. But have you met Nico?
No, I haven't, but I replied to him in Italian. I think when he puts the Italian thing out, sometimes I reply. I work with the Italians, so I know. I used to have to say una palla di mud, like one shovel of mud for my Italian. And it's funny because the Italians, and I know andiamo in mi casa and just little things like let's go home. I know all those sort of stuff, and I love it. Mate, most of my food, the reason I got fat was the Australian way of eating food.
Well, Nico's also a chef, so we've got two Nicos in the academy that are both chefs. Nico runs he's got a restaurant up in Newcastle. So to anyone that's watching live, Nico, can you put in the restaurant name in the comments so I can display it, mate, for anyone that's interested in checking out your restaurant?
Well, that's okay. I've got to go down to Newcastle when the borders open because I've got to change the work kit. So I'll stop in Newcastle, then the Tendra Coast for dinners. So
beautiful. That'd be sick. Causa says, awesome, unbelievable insight. He was just trying to one-up you from last week, Causa, I believe. So, mate.
Did you hear his interview with Skip?
Corey?
Did you hear about that? Yeah, Corey's. So a couple of months ago, Mick asked him what would be his favourite job, and he goes, "Oh, you know the guy that goes around to the Australian cricket team and does the men massages and stuff like that." And we give him shit all the time. And that's I still laugh sometimes.
So good. Mick always asks the weird questions, doesn't he? So to anyone that's watching, Bella Italia restaurant, of course it is. Text me when you come in. So anyone that watches this live. Or later on, go to Nico's restaurant up in Newcastle. It's a killer. I can't wait to get home. I'm coming home in January, so I can't wait to watch it. To get there.
Hey, you know what we should do? We should get Nico. We should get the two, Nico and Nicola, is to put like a link up and everyone give them just a Google review because it just means that people will search their restaurant,
that's a very good shout.
You should just chuck up a link because I know how Google stuff works. Is if you get 50 Google reviews, mate, your business will go to the top. So we could all help out and just click a link and do something.
That's a great shout. That's a really good shout. All right, let's leave it there, dude. You go and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts, mate. To everyone that joined live, legends.
I hope it was good, mate.
It was really good. I'll see you guys soon.
Right,
sure.
Good, mate.